Death to the federal government! Fuck the United States! Death to America!
Feds and them. Yeah.
Weak ass! It's fucking weak! It's fucking weak! Come outside! Come outside! Come outside! Come outside! Come outside! Come outside!
We should have put handles on the outside. He don't like it. He don't like it.
Move back! Get fucking back! Move back! You ain't tough! What's up? You ain't tough! Get back! Get back! Take your bags off! Take your bags off and sit on I'll knock you out! You ain't fucking back! I'll fuck you up! You ain't a man without this backup! You're a fucking coward!
If you want to know why this country is so divided, you need to look no further than the media that you consume. As usual, liberal media is hiding the violence that's coming from the far left extremists. This is much like conservative media hiding from their viewers the grim reality of the Capitol attack. Dozens and dozens of stories completely censored, suppressed, blacklisted by conservative media. Liberal media, which is in the same business as conservative media is in, right? They're doing the same thing right now as they have been doing for a while now, hiding the violence from the left-wing extremists. Each side of the media protects the extremists on the side of the political spectrum that they pander to. Conservative media like Tim Pool, Steven Crowder, Blaze TV, Fox News, AONN, Ben Shapiro. These are all partisans, propagandists, and when there is violence from the right, they will whitewash it, they will downplay it, they will completely not report on it. Like, again, the dozens of stories from the Capitol attack. Liberal media panders to liberals. So, whenever Antifa's burning down buildings, they suppress it. They don't really report on it. They report a lot on the protests, not so much on the riots coming from the left. Conservative media will report a lot on the riots from the left-wing extremists, not so much on the protests that they claim to support. Because remember, right-wing media, we support peaceful protests. Well, why don't you report on it? Right. So if you go to conservative media right now, one of the lies that you will see being told is that Antifa is back at it again with the white vans. Truth is, they never stopped. So it's ironic that these guys are so inept that they can't even get it right. I mean, think about this. They don't care. They don't care about whatever's happening in Portland. They don't live there. Burn away, right? Burn away. Do whatever you want. They don't care. All they care about is content. They are pandering to their audience. It's fake outrage. If they cared about this lawlessness, if they cared about vigilantism, if they cared about any of this stuff, then they would be equally concerned about what happened on January 6th. Their lack of interest in covering the story, in following up on the story, seeing where things goes, who planted the bombs, all that kind of stuff. The lack of interest in that demonstrates they don't care about domestic terrorism, unless, of course, it's local to them, right? It's part of the selfish culture that we have in this country. We only care about things that directly affect us, right? So the only people who really, for the most part, that really care about Antifa and what they're doing are the people who live there, the local businesses, the homeowners, the residents. Sure, there's people across the country that care as well, but for the most part, the most vocal voices are only utilizing what's happening in Portland for their own self-interest. Content creators using it to make money. Propagandists using it for propaganda to pander to their audience. They do not care. Further proof that they don't care is that they're not even caring enough to follow it properly to know that it's been going on all along. right? They just bounce from topic to topic of whatever they think is beneficial to them. So it's Dr. Seuss, and now they got wind of Antifa, right? They didn't care enough to keep track of what's been going on or to do any research. You don't have to keep track of it. Just do research. If you really care about it, do. I'm not talking about do some extensive scientific study, but actually go and look into like what's been happening there. Do some Google searches or something. Do something other than it shows up in your feed and you're like, this will be good stuff for me to go and pander to my audience with. Look, Antifa, they're back at it again, right? The fact that anyone in the right, any conservative media who is saying that they're back at it again, that proves they don't care. Because if they cared, they would have done the research. They would have either been following it all along to know it never stopped, or they would see it in their feed or however, then they would look into it and find out, hey, they never stopped. But because they don't really care, they just see it in their feed and they just automatically go out there and, Antifa's back at it again with the white vans. Meanwhile, liberal media that's been all over the Capitol attacks, good job. I've seen some really good reporting on that, really diving into it. Could always be better, but they've done a pretty good job. Meanwhile, Antifa's jumping on, or whoever they are, these extremists are jumping on police cars, setting federal courthouses on fire with police officers inside. And the same liberal media, as usual, right, predictably so, don't care to report on it. These propagandists in conservative and liberal media, they're so bad that they are extremely predictable. Look at my coverage of the George Floyd trial and prediction of how they wouldn't cover it. Same thing goes with any of this left-wing extremists. These kinds of attacks in Portland or whatever, liberal media, they don't care to report on that. Now, if a bunch of Trump supporters does the same thing, this is why it's important that content creators on YouTube resist the urge to be partisans. Resist the urge to pander to your audience. Because if you go right now to a lot of these leftist channels or left-leaning channels, they're not going to be really covering Antifa. I'm not going to really see a video of David Pakman saying this is ridiculous, these guys need to stop this, this lawlessness and burning courthouses, this has to stop. I'm not going to see it. I'm not going to see the Young Turks post a video about what Antifa or whoever they are is doing in Portland. Now, if one of those police officers goes too far and beats the crap out of one of the protesters, then the Young Turks, it's savage. Why? Because it pays the bills. Pandering to their audience. The Young Turks sees their audience as nothing but a bunch of rubes. I'm pretty sure David Pakman as well. Tim Pool, Blaze TV, MSNBC. Bunch of dummies. Right? That's how they see their audience. Oh, they're gonna love this. A police officer shot someone. Let's play up the racism angle. This will be great. Hey, can you get Al Sharpton? Can you call up Al Sharpton? This is gonna be good. Another black man killed by a white police officer. This is the 10th incident with a white. Do you have any evidence that it was racism? Evidence. But he was white. Our idiot viewers, they don't care about facts. They're just gonna see this and react to it. Oh no, those racist pigs. How you know the cop was racist? Doesn't matter. Meanwhile, cha-ching, cha-ching, ching, ching. That's what it is. Conservative media and liberal media are fleecing the public, getting richer and richer off of the ignorance of the public at the cost of destroying this country through division and many times also death. Yes, people are literally dying as a result of the greed of media in this country. When you are slanted and biased and you hide details from the public and you divide us, this leads to actions where people die. Why do you think people died on January 6th? Why do you think that Trump supporter was assassinated in Portland? shot in the face? Why do you think tens of thousands of Americans are dead right now? A lot of it, for all these cases, comes from media. And it's time we start calling it out for what it is. This is how this story would be approached from both sides of the media. Let's start with liberal. Left-wing extremists are burning down courthouses again. My audience, they don't really want to see that stuff, right? And that's going to go against our narrative of the social justice warrior. This, Martin Luther King moment. Civil rights and the people rising up and standing up for justice. Now, not saying that's not happening. However, liberal media has been focusing on that side of things while ignoring things that are inconvenient to that narrative, like these individuals burning down courthouses. Conservative media response. Let's pretend like this wasn't happening under Trump and somehow it's Biden's fault. Let's pretend like, as ridiculous and unacceptable as it was, those guys jumping on the police car, that it's anywhere near to dozens of people almost crushing to death a police officer. Listening to a police officer screaming in pain as they crush him. If I'm conservative media, I will pretend as if jumping on a police car as unacceptable, illegal, and in this case, domestic terrorist-like, that is, I will pretend as if there is any comparison. Simply jumping on a vehicle as a conservative media personality, I will put simply jumping on a police car on the same level as almost crushing a police officer to death. And it's very important to add the detail of him screaming out in pain. Because what kind of savage listens to someone screaming in pain as you crush them nearly to death? Sustained crushing. And what kind of moron compares that to jumping on a police car? And then you got the binary thinkers who it's all the same. And I guess some of that comes from perhaps religion. For example, the concept with I believe God looks at all sin as the same. Sin is sin. So many believe raping someone, same thing as stealing a loaf of bread. If you've been brought up with that kind of ideology, then I can see how you can look at nearly crushing a police officer to death who's screaming in pain. Equate that to the same thing as jumping on a police car. I'm going to, as a conservative media personality, I'm going to point out how the left-wing media doesn't want to cover it. They're not covering it, right? Which is accurate, but the way I'm using it is actually not accurate because I do the same thing, right? Conservative media does the same thing times 10. So them pointing it out, I don't know if saying it's inaccurate is accurate. It's more dishonest, right? How can you be pointing out something that you're doing 10 times worse? So the idea of somebody like Steven Crowder and the liberal media, they don't want to talk about it. Dozens and dozens of capital attack stories completely suppressed. The second impeachment almost completely suppressed. No one in conservative media has any right to talk about liberal media not covering topics. No one in liberal media has any right, corporate anyway, to be talking about conservative media not covering topics. You guys both do the same stuff, and if we're going to give a score, definitely conservative media is far worse, but it's not a competition. Both sides of the media are destroying this country. They're dishonest, they're manipulative, and it needs to stop. I don't care who's worse than who. Both need to stop. Those are my thoughts. This is the Debate Me channel. Debate Me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well.